My name is Jay Hilgeford. I'd like to welcome you to the video version of the JoinTech Clincher Owner's Manual. Now, please understand that the purpose of this video is not to replace the information in the Owner's Manual. It is to complement the information in the Owner's Manual. So it is necessary to read and understand this book thoroughly before beginning any new woodworking operations. Once you have viewed the video and read the manual and then done some preliminary practice, you will be able to very easily build any of these projects that you see sitting around in the shop. Before beginning any woodworking project, always read and thoroughly understand the owner's manual for any new tool that you'll be using. Also understand any new woodworking process that you'll be performing. Use all applicable safety gear, eye protection, hearing protection, and all safety equipment, guards, feather boards, push sticks, and push pads. And remember, if it doesn't look safe, it probably isn't. Let's take a look at the JoinTech Clincher machine. First, we'll take a look at the handle. When the handle is in the vertical position, it allows you to move the clincher throughout its entire throw. When the handle is moved to the 45-degree detent position, it locks the clincher in place, but it still allows you to do micrometer adjustments with the micrometer wheel. When the handle is moved into the lock position, it locks the clincher securely in place for when you're doing your actual cutting operations. Another feature is the anti-parallax cursor. This allows you to look down and get better visual inspection of any rulers or tapes, templates that you use in the clincher. Probably one of the most important features of the clincher is the rabbet and the true center. These are the items that allow you to get perfect symmetry on all of your woodworking joints. The JoinTech Clincher woodworking system comes in several varieties. This is the 12-inch joint making system. It has on it the standard 27-inch fence. For larger router tables, there is the 18-inch clincher, and on this one we have mounted a 32-inch smart fence. And then for large shops or table saw use, there is the 26-inch clincher with a 32-inch smart fence that we have mounted to this table saw. Now you can fine-tune your shop for your needs by purchasing whichever fence best fits your need and attaching it to whichever size JoinTech clincher that matches your needs. Let's take a look at a few of the accessories that are available for your JoinTech clincher system. This is the fence raiser, which is used for giving you additional height for tall pieces of wood such as raised panels. This is a horizontal featherboard set that is used for pushing inwards against your fence. This set of featherboards here is used for pushing downwards against the table and mounts to the top of the fence. These are extra inserts for the smart fence and come in boxes of 6. There is also the spline fixture, which is used for doing decorative corner joints on mitered cornered boxes. Also, there is a complete set of router bits that matches all of the different joints that you'll want to perform with your JoinTech system. As far as educational aids, there's your JoinTech project book, which covers a wide variety of very nice projects that you'd like to build, as well as instructional videos that show how to build various projects such as these that you see back here. The first step in setting up your JoinTech clincher is to mount it to an adjustable backup board. Now the reason why we mount it to this board is to give us ease in removing it from the router table when we don't want to use it, and also to give you some coarse forwards and backwards adjustment on the router table. Now the clincher attaches to the backup board just by using screws through 4 pre-drilled holes in the base. We can just screw these down and position it. You can screw the clincher right down to the router table if you're never going to take it off or only going to take it off infrequently. Otherwise, constantly taking these screws in and out will wear out your router tabletop and will become a nuisance. There's a nylon strip that is packaged in with your hardware for the fence, and this nylon strip is used as a glide. Now, depending upon the fence system that you have, depends on how many pieces you'll want to cut this into. For the smart fence, you'll want to cut it into 4 pieces, and you will mount 2 pieces here and 2 pieces over here. And this will allow the smart fence or the standard fence, either one, to slide more freely across your router tabletop. To mount the fence to the clincher, you'll take 2 provided screws, washers, and nuts and run them loosely through the holes in the front flange of the clincher. On the smart fence, what you'll also need to do is to remove the knobs for one of the fence faces and pull that out so that those are not in your way. Then you can set the fence down, line the nuts up with the appropriate slot, and slide that in. Once you have the fence positioned properly, you can use a screwdriver, tighten up the screws, and then reinstall the fence facing. After you tighten the fence to the body of the clincher, take a square and run it up the face of the fence to see if the face is square to the tabletop. If it's not, what you'll need to do is shim the fence to the flange on the clincher. The best shim material to use is masking tape. Just take the masking tape in little pieces and begin building it up one thickness at a time, either on the top or the bottom of the flange, whichever is needed to bring the flange square to the surface of the tabletop. With the clincher and the mounting board locked securely to the tabletop, the next thing you want to do is see if the travel works properly. You want the clincher to slide freely throughout its entire throw. Now, should you find that the clincher binds anywhere on the table, what you'll want to do first is to adjust the clincher to about halfway down the length of its throw, lock it in place, and then loosen the 2 screws on the back of the fence and see if there's any binding in that position. Once you've readjusted, then slide the fence again and make sure that it moves smoothly. Another adjustment are the 2 Gibbs screws that are located on the back side of the clincher, and these will also adjust for any binding that you might experience in the length of the clincher system. One of the features of the JoinTech Smart Fence is the fact that it has a dust extractor port, and that allows you to draw the chips down through the body of the fence and away from the cutter when you're doing machining operations where the bit is internal of the fence. Now, this extractor port will fit some vacuum hoses, but not all. To fine-tune this to fit your particular dust collector, what you'll need to do is go to the hardware store and buy whatever type of PVC pipe fitting that will step up or down from this port to the hose that fits your vacuum or dust collector. We're going to assemble the vertical push fixture. This aluminum plate has 4 pre-drilled holes, and the vertical push fixture body also has 4 matching pre-drilled holes. The plate fits right over like this, and then you use the 4 provided drywall screws and shoot them down in to the body. Now, I would take and put them in part way so that in case there's any slight misalignment of the holes, you don't get to the last one and find that you can't get it in. Now, you also have 2 nylon screws that thread into the body of the vertical push fixture. Go ahead and insert these as I have done, and then slide the vertical push fixture into the dovetail slot on the top of your fence. The next thing you do is adjust these screws in until they just touch the face of the fence. You don't want them to bind, but you want to take out any slack so that the vertical push fixture does not wobble as it travels up and down the length of your fence. As with squaring the fence to the table surface, also check the face of the vertical push fixture, and if it is not square to the table surface, you will also want to take and put some tape or shims back in between the body of the push fixture and the aluminum facing. Now I'm going to show you how to do a preliminary adjustment of the XY stop block. First thing you want to do is install a router bit into your router. Now, as we change different diameters of routers, you'll have to do some minute adjustments on this because this is based on the diameter of the bit installed in the router at the time. There are 2 pre-printed templates in your template set. One says outfeed and one says infeed, and these are used on the outfeed and infeed sides respectively of the smart fence. Now what you'll do is take your stop block and move it up until it just touches the cutting edge of the router bit you've selected, and then lock it in place. Lock the stop block in place, touching the router bit. Next, slide the template in with the 0 end towards the stop block and slide it down just like this until the 0 lines up with the edge of the stop block right here. Now, when you raise the face of the stop block and move the stop block to the opposite side and line the opposite edge of the stop block to the 0, you should be able to look down and see that this edge of the stop block now lines up with the cutting edge of the router bit. So as you use the stop block to set your depth of, or your length of cut, you simply move the stop block down, and however far you move it back, whatever dimension you lock this on, you'll be assured that you have the exact dimension from the front edge of the router bit where it just begins to cut to the face of the block where it stops. Now you also notice that this tape sticks out the back end of the fence. Well, that's because this is a 16-inch tape. The other tape is also a 16-inch tape. These tapes are made to fit on any one of the fences, no matter what size you have. This is a 24-inch fence, so all you need to do is just trim the tape down with a pair of scissors to match the fence that you have. I'm going to show you how to machine one of these plastic inserts to accept a router bit. For the first operation, we're going to use just a 1/2-inch diameter carbide spiral router bit to cut into this insert. These inserts machine very easily, so this will be a quick operation. One thing you want to do is make sure that the center of the fence, which has a small notch on it, is lined up with the center of the router. And that way, if you're using large cutters, you don't have to worry about one edge of the cutter actually coming in contact with the metal face of the fence. Also, as a precaution, let's take and remove the insert and then slide the clincher and the fence over the router bit, back in like that at the deepest point that we're going to want to cut forward. Then we could put a stop block on the table and clamp that in place. That way, as you're making the cut, as you're advancing the clincher over into the router bit, you won't cut too deep and strike the metal body of the fence. Then we can slide the insert back in place and tighten the nuts holding the face in place. The router bit depth is just a little bit more than the deepest cut that we're going to need to make. Slide the fence forward till it almost touches the router bit, and then move the cam handle into the middle 45-degree detented position. And that prevents the fence from moving except for with the micro adjustment. And you'll notice the micro adjustment has a little set of arrows on here that tells you if you turn it one way, the fence goes forward. If you turn it the other way, it goes backwards. And we want to move the fence forwards onto the spinning router bit. And that's how easy it is to cut the insert for a straight bit. Now you get a little fuzzy stuff over here on the one side. You can take and clean it up with an X-Acto knife or a little bit of sandpaper. On larger cutters, what you might want to do is use a coping saw, scroll saw, or a band saw and cut the shape partly out before beginning. Now I'm going to show you how to enlarge the opening for a shaped router bit such as this 1/4-inch grooving cutter that I have mounted on here. Now we're using the same insert that I just cut the 1/2-inch slot in, but I shifted the fence left and right about a 1/64 of an inch and ran it in a second and third time to make the width just a little bit more than the diameter of that pilot bearing on the router bit. And then now I've got the router bit set at the height at which I will be using it, and will very slowly feed it over the rotating router bit. Now on large bits such as panel raising cutters and big shape cutters, what you might actually also want to do is possibly put a scrap piece of wood and clamp it over the front of the fence and feed through it first into the plate, the insert plate, to keep it from popping loose or breaking as you're making the cut. Once again, we've also used the stop block to prevent advancing the fence too far and damaging the metal portion of the smart fence.